Thank you, Jennifer, for being here tonight. And we're going to present you this proclamation. Whereas dyslexia is a language-based learning disability that affects approximately 1 in 5 people, regardless of race, gender, age, or socioeconomic status. And whereas neurological in origin, dyslexia affects the way the brain processes information and is characterized by difficulties with reading, writing, and spelling, despite normal intelligence. And whereas those with dyslexia benefit greatly from specialized assistance from highly trained teachers, multi-sensory learning programs, and individualized instruction. And whereas early identification, alternative instruction, and extra support from friends, family, and teachers can contribute to the success dyslexic students enjoy in the classroom, in life, and later on in employment. And whereas dyslexia is defined by the state of North Carolina law, House Bill 149/SL2017-127. Therefore, I, John D. Bridgman, Mayor of the City of Gastonia, and the City Council of the City of Gastonia, do hereby proclaim October 2017 as Dyslexia Awareness Month in the City of Gastonia, North Carolina, and I encourage each individual in the community to acknowledge educators specializing in effective teaching strategies and to celebrate the many achievements of adolescents, students, and adults with dyslexia. In witness thereof, I hereunto set my hand this 19th day of September in the year of our Lord, 2017. Signed by Mayor John D. Bridgman. And would you like to say a few words?
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council. I also had Ms. Dunaway pass out some pamphlets for your information that you can reference later. Thank you for declaring October as 2017 as Dyslexia Awareness Month. This is just one of many small steps in raising awareness and bringing about change for our kids with dyslexia. Dyslexia is a difference in the brain and makes processing written and sometimes spoken language difficult. Dyslexics don't see words backwards or letters, but the language part of their brain works differently and less effectively to process words. This makes reading very slow because someone with dyslexia has to decode every word, and depending on how severe or profound, may continue to have to sound out even 3-letter words years after their peers. Please take about 10 minutes, not necessarily, during your council meeting, but tonight or as you're sitting in bed, and take a moment to learn a little bit about dyslexia and know some of the facts. Know there are evidence-based reading programs that will help a dyslexic student to read, but many schools don't use them because it takes more training to learn how to teach these. Most schools do not screen for dyslexia, even though children as young as 5 can be tested. Most higher education schools, colleges who teach our teachers don't teach about dyslexia, even though it is the most common learning disability. Sadly, even many special education teachers are not taught about it either. Most importantly, learn enough to help one person who has a concern about a child who is struggling to read or who hits the brick wall in 3rd grade with his reading. Often, dyslexics have enough compensation skills to continue on with their reading until then. Don't miss a concern with he will catch up, but often these kids don't unless they get the appropriate help early. I first learned about dyslexia when my son Joe was in the 2nd grade, and I was trying to figure out how to help him. The school didn't seem concerned that he was not learning to read and never mentioned dyslexia, only the special education qualification of specific learning disability, under which dyslexia does fall. He had qualified for special education services since kindergarten, but was making minimal progress, if any at all. I had assumed everything was being done to help him and that the school was the expert. When I read about dyslexia, I knew immediately this is what he had. I had been confused on why he couldn't learn to read because he was so smart. There was no intellectual disability. I learned about all the research and was confused why the school had not mentioned this. I was sure as soon as I shared this with the school, the light would come on. That didn't happen. After emails and IEP meetings, the school told me that dyslexia was a medical term, not an educational term. How could that be when everything I was reading was telling me how to help a child learn how to read? Isn't how to read an education, isn't that educational? There's no pill, there's no medical test, there's no medical procedure for dyslexia. How could it be medical? I felt defeated. I really didn't care at the time what they called it, as long as they provided him with what he needed to learn, but it didn't happen. The story is being repeated across the U.S., and I'm baffled why. And I can't be silent, because I know there are more kids like my son Joe, here in Gaston County and across the country. These kids, by law, deserve to learn how to read, but there's still so much information that gets passed around. It is estimated by the experts in the dyslexia research field that 1 in 5 school-age children have some form of dyslexia. It runs in families and on a continuum from mild to profound. I hope by speaking out and raising awareness that I can help one family or one child in this community. This is why I joined Decoding Dyslexia North Carolina. Decoding Dyslexia is in all 50 states and 4 Canadian provinces. I hope to be part of the change in North Carolina by changing perceptions, laws, policies, and advocating for students. This year, we have seen some fruits of our labor. 10 representatives from Decoding Dyslexia North Carolina met with our new superintendent, Mark Johnson, in Raleigh by this past March. We brought him lots of information about this disability and the challenges that parents in North Carolina are facing. We were encouraged by his interest and desire to help. We also gathered support for House Bill 149, which was signed into law in July. One of the provisions is that North Carolina Educational Code now contains the definition of dyslexia. North Carolina is one of only 11 states in this country that does not have educational laws for kids with dyslexia. Kids with dyslexia don't always get special education services or a 504 plan, and therefore still struggle more than their peers. It is encouraging that the State Department of Instruction, the Exceptional Children's Department, has also stepped up and now has information, resources for parents and teachers and schools related to dyslexia on their website, including a document that refutes a lot of the myths that have been spread around, and many of which I was told. It is encouraging because 4 years ago, when I was doing all of my research, could not find anything on North Carolina's education website. It is not the end, but a beginning to getting kids with dyslexia what they need. Thank you for your time, and please help change the face of dyslexia with knowledge. Knowledge will hopefully transform education, and hopefully one day parents won't have to struggle and advocate to get their sons and daughters with dyslexia a free, appropriate public education, which is provided for in federal IDEA law. Thank you very much.